The Peace Corps conceals the truth of global rape. So the fucking Peace Corps finally makes the national news and revealed for what it is. They're a bunch of liars. They trick people. Girls get raped all of the time in the Peace Corps. Jess Smochek is not the first, nor will she be the last. Whose fault is it? It's a little complicated, but here's how it broke down in my Peace Corps country. The first is Peace Corps responsibility. The second is American volunteer responsibility, and the third is host country national responsibility, taking up the first. The Peace Corps lies about the host country culture and does not warn the PCVs about the reality. PCVs are Peace Corps volunteers. Think of it as a politically correct guide to the foreign country without the warnings. They paint a rosy picture of the host culture where you find yourself. You are left to discover the negatives yourself alone. The Peace Corps uses positive stereotypes during the culture section of the training, but does not use the negative stereotypes. The fact is, they use cultural stereotypes. And also, all cultures have good and bad components. So, you're not really prepared by the Peace Corps for what you're going to encounter in terms of the xenophobia, the hatred, the violence from the men, women, all of the sort of things that, especially in these kind of societies where you find yourselves, these are a little more primitive to what most of us are accustomed to. Now, the second topic is American volunteer responsibility. You have ignorant American girls who are pushing their American attitudes and behavior on the host country nationals. You have somebody in their 20s who thinks, I have a right to behave any way I want. Well, that's fine if you're in New York and California, maybe not in Nebraska. But it's definitely not okay in other countries where they're willing to, punish you severely for your attitude. Where I was, there were a few girls who refused to accept the reality that if you smiled at a man, it meant you wanted to fuck them. If you talked to a man, it meant you wanted to fuck them. And if you had blonde hair, it was worse for you, because traditionally the prostitutes all dyed their hair blonde. So, even though after Peace Corps training and walking around, the women found this out very quickly, some of them refused to change their attitude. They were sort of thinking that they were social activists and that they would demonstrate to the locals that they weren't prostitutes and they weren't saying that I wanted to fuck. And of course, a lot of the guys had to step in to protect the girls from the aggressive host country national males. After a while, some of the American guys decided they weren't going to protect those American girls because their attitude was causing all the problems. So what happened? Of course, a couple of girls in our group got raped. A couple of girls in our group got beat up. And those girls who persisted in maintaining their smiles and in maintaining their greetings to the men had lots of hassles and lots of scary situations occur. Even in some cases where you have promiscuous American girls who want to sleep with all the local nationals, if you put another Peace Corps girl into that same apartment, all the locals start banging on the doors because they expect the same American whore to be there. Doesn't matter whether her name is Judy or Kathy. They're all the same, right? Excuse me. So the third one, of course, is the host country national responsibility. Fact is, they're the rapists. They're the aggressors. Their attitudes, confronting the attitudes of the foreigners, well, there you go. So you get American guys getting beat up, sometimes getting raped. Definitely get lots of American girls getting raped in the Peace Corps all over. And they just like raping their enemies, especially these days. I bet the incidence of rape since 9/11 is much higher than it was beforehand. Then, of course, Peace Corps lies and doesn't divulge their information, so you would never know unless you actually had all the Peace Corps volunteers come up and say what had happened to them. The bottom line is that the Peace Corps lies about the risks on a regular basis. They threaten and cajole volunteers in order to keep secrets, and they do nothing to help you after your trauma. I know some Peace Corps volunteers who were not going along with the Peace Corps status quo, and when they were sick and incapacitated, they were actually medically evacuated and locked in a room and paid off to keep quiet. And of course, they were kicked out of the Peace Corps. So, there are lots of stories and lots of incidents. And forget about the Pollyannas who are telling you that there's nothing wrong with Peace Corps, because it's craziness all over the place. In any case, I hope that all of the raped and brutalized American Peace Corps volunteers go on record now and force some change in the evil Peace Corps. There needs to be more accountability, more transparency. Those of us who have been in the Peace Corps tell all of the women not to go, or at least not to go to specific countries. Because no matter what your politically correct attitude informs you as you view the world, the reality of how people behave in their neighborhood and in their houses is what challenges your intellectual perceptions. Anyways, I would join the Peace Corps again for my own particular reasons, but that doesn't mean I don't say fuck the Peace Corps and the way they treat people, especially the way they had the violence against women. Later.